No one makes magic in business like Disney. Join us as we hear from Disney cast members, influencers, and enthusiasts to uncover the secrets of what it takes behind the scenes to make Disney such a successful and well loved brand. We will hear their journeys, inspirations, and have some good old fashioned Disney fun along the way. So relax, pull up a chair, be our guest, and let's get down to Bippity Boppity Business. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bippity Boppity Business. Today, we have a very special guest who I got to meet through another project that I'm working on. And we have Frank Scandura here. And Frank is someone I absolutely enjoyed meeting and talking to because we both have a shared affinity for the Disney brand. But I brought him on because of his unique experience and just general mindset on business. Frank is a highly respected entrepreneur and automotive expert with over 40 years of experience. He's a published author, coach, speaker, and leader who's known for his honest and transparent approach to the European vehicle service. His commitment to exceptional customer experiences has influenced so many automotive centers to adopt what is fondly known as Frank's way of doing business. He also coaches other business owners on how to run a successful operation. And with everything that Frank does, he enjoys sharing his expertise in leadership, personal development, and financial management through his work and with his team. And again, he also understands Disney business and is exactly why I wanted to bring him on the show today. So welcome, Frank, to the show.
Thank you, Rita. Appreciate the warm introduction. Thank you very much for the kind words.
Absolutely. Frank, I just really connected with you when we last met, and you showed me the couple of Disney books that you had lying around the office about customer service. And I genuinely connected on how you do business from our last conversation. And I just really sensed a strong passion for what you do. You really care. So I'm curious to know, how did your passion for providing the level of honest and transparent automotive experiences begin? How did you end up doing this? And what challenges have you faced along the way?
Well, I have to go back almost half a century. And I said that for the first time yesterday, and it kind of dawned on me. I've been doing this for a while. And it started out in the early days. I grew up in a small town, and my dad had a barbershop. And it was a 2-lane highway. It was the old Albany Turnpike in upstate New York. And the gas station across the street really intrigued me. And I used to go hang out and watch the guys there. They wanted, they would talk to me, show me things. The owner would come. He'd say, "Kid, get out of here. There's no place for you." And, we played this game for a while. And he finally said, "If you don't get out of here, I'm going to put you to work. What do you want me to do? Because I'm not leaving." Handed me a broom. And that's how I really started in this business, just hanging around guys, asking questions, absorbing information, learning all that I could. And I remember early on, those cleaning lessons were important, right? Because that's what helped me make sure that I had an extremely clean facility today. That was critically important. I remember years after I'd started professionally working in a garage, my mother commenting, "That's one of the cleanest restrooms I've ever seen in a gas station in my life." Boom. I knew I was doing things right.
When your mom tells you that things are clean and it meets that standard, you're absolutely on the right track for sure.
And it wasn't long before I was fixing cars on the driveway at home. I'd hear people speak, to the shop owner, "Oh, I can't afford to do that. What are my options?" And I'd run up and say, "Hey, boss, let me work on it at home." And he'd look the person right in the eye and say, "If you let that kid work on that car, you're out of your mind and you're on your own." And they would. And I didn't know anything about business or pricing jobs. I did stuff stupid cheap. We're talking late 70s, early 80s. So and that's where I broke my teeth and got started.
It's interesting that your passion got started from just something as small as sneaking in or going to a gas station and enjoying what like your interest from there. And it's so cool to me that you started so small at that level, and you didn't go to college, but yet all of those parts of your life, everything that you've learned, every experience that you've had, you've implemented it and grown something amazing. And I think a lot of people listening to the show might wonder, well, you know, if I wherever I'm at in my business, especially for me, I'm in my first year of business. Like being able to see past those first few years of business and like just implementing processes in a way that grows in a way that you've been able to is also another reason why I was like, yes, we got to get Frank on here, because that kind of growth doesn't happen unless you're willing to take risks and unless you're willing to try. And I think that's something Walt Disney did really well. He was a big advocate of taking risks and doing new things. And tell me if that resonates with you, or if that's something that you've learned to do throughout your years of business.
It is. And most people get blocked by fear. And fear truly paralyzes people, right? It could be to the extreme where I'm afraid to touch a doorknob because I might get germs, right? That's one extreme. And the other extreme is, well, I'm afraid to go into business. What if I fail? And for some reason, we're taught that failure is worse than trying, or the threat of failure is worse than trying. And it really shouldn't be that way, right? It should be, we should be rewarded for taking a risk and trying. Little kids trying out for soccer don't think, oh, I might fail at this. They go, dude, give me the ball. Let's play. And we need to have that childlike attitude to just step out in faith and do it.
Yeah, the
I
kid
have that.
doesn't, they don't think I might fail. They might think I might win. What if I try? Who knows what could happen? It's all about the
Exactly. Yeah.
mindset. What other mindsets have shaped your business and kind of taken you to where you are now, in your opinion?
So you're going back a little bit. You said I didn't go to college. I actually didn't even graduate high school. I was
Oh,
invited. I was invited to leave with the opportunity of coming back, or they were going to sign me out with no opportunity of coming back. And I said, well, I'm not stupid. Where do I sign? And I never had support at home. My mother was very weak. My father was very overbearing, and he truly didn't care. And he made it
yeah.
clear, even if you wanted to go to college, he wasn't going to pay for it. You're on your own to figure it out. And I have one sister who did go and graduated college on her own. So I had to have that it's up to me mentality. And I don't know, 100 years ago or so, J.C. Penney used to sell bicycles. And I remember walking through the store, maybe getting school clothes or something as a family, and seeing a 10-speed bicycle with disc brakes, thinking that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And saying to my dad, I want that bike. And he goes, I don't care. I'm not buying it. and and that's when I learned you had to work for what you wanted, right? So I started cutting grass, shoveling snow, 2 paper routes, whatever it took to to bring money in to have the things I wanted. Sadly, that was a lesson in you save money to spend money. Right. It took me
Mm.
many years to learn you need to save money for your future. I remember my son telling me once, Dad, my wife and I are going to sell everything we own and travel the country. I said, that sounds like a bad plan, kid. What are you thinking? He goes, well, I don't want to wait until I don't want to work all my life before I enjoy it. I said, listen, kid, you work all your life to save money so you can afford to enjoy it. But you know what? They did it. They pulled it off. They got 2 kids now. They've settled down. So, and that was a no fear experiment for them. It wasn't, what if I don't have gas for the motorhome? What if the motorhome breaks down? It was just, we're going to do this. This is what we want to do. And they just forged ahead and did it.
Yeah. And I think being able to, in whatever way makes sense for you, forge ahead and do something in spite of the obstacles that are ahead of you, in spite of, how the resources or opportunities that you had, like when you were younger, being able to keep going and truly pushing forward in what you believe in for your business is, I think, maybe one of the biggest things that separates successful entrepreneurs from those that don't make it in business. Because I think if you fail once and you don't do a good job and you quit, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's done forever, Like, what was a time that you thought, man, this whole thing is over with. I'm going to hang up my coat, but you kept going anyways. And
Yeah. Usually on Mondays.
On Mondays? I love that. That's so
Because
true.
it's challenging all the time.
Yeah.
And I think of my business walk as a set of stairs, and a giant, huge set of stairs. And you got onto a step and you had this really easy journey for a while. And then you had the next tread, you had to climb and overcome that obstacle. And then once you overcame it, it was like, hey, this is pretty easy, pretty good ride there for a while. But you're always going to have obstacles. You're always going to have challenges. And what you do about those obstacles and challenges is what's going to determine your level of success. Okay. How many people I've talked to, I hired a handyman to do some work for me. Guy did a great job, and it's him alone. And I go, man, why don't you have a crew? Just because it's my business mind thinking, why don't you have a crew? You could be doing this. And I list out, 4 or 5 things you could be doing. And he goes, oh, if they don't do it as good as I do. This is true. They don't. But you have to have measurements in place, accountability in place, and training in place, right? I'm going to hire you to do a job. I'm going to train you how to do it. And I'm going to measure what you're doing and then hold you accountable to that standard. And then one of two things will happen. You'll continue to grow and improve, or you can go work for somebody else. It's really simple. And a lot of people really get hung up on, well, I tried to hire somebody and it didn't work out. So it'll never work out. And we're all going to die and go home and have to eat the dog because we have no money.
I love your candid sense of humor, but there's so much truth rooted in that level of distress and that climb, that set of stairs. You're right. Every phase of business is just like, dang, there's this other thing we have to overcome. And I think another set of stairs that all of us are facing right now is staying ahead of the curve of technology and trying to make sure we are either working with technology, hopefully, like Walt Disney was a huge fan of trying to keep moving forward and use innovation on his, as a benefit for him. But then there's other people that are like, what if our business completely dies out? So, how have you adapted your business to kind of keep with the times and keep moving forward? And when, that technology is that other stair to climb?
So John Maxwell has a course on I think it's the 15 laws of leadership or growth, right? And law number 1 is intentionality. You have to be intentional, right? You can't just kind of float along and expect things to happen. My early years in business were very challenging because I was really good at the jobs I was doing within the company, whether it was fixing the cars, diagnosing the cars, writing service, customer service kind of stuff, marketing and things like that. And the more the company grew, the more each of those duties became diluted because more and more is expected of me. So I had to learn how to step back from the job, right? Because some people think they own a business, but they really own a job. They're putting in
Yes.
70, 80 hours a week. They're not making a lot of money. They're stressed out. The family's getting torn apart. Quality of life is horrible. When you truly own a business, you've got an entity that takes care of other people as well as yourself. So learning how to step back and take that 40,000 foot view and be able to say, there's something that needs to be changed. Oh, look, there's something we should be doing better. Hey, I just noticed, that perhaps that person over there is really not pulling their weight. Let's go have a chat. And transitioning from a really great technician to a really great service advisor to a mediocre business owner and then becoming a great business owner, right? That transition had to take place. And I had to admit, I'm not doing as well because I was that guy working 70, 80 hours a week till 9, 10 o'clock at night, doing all the paperwork, doing all the payroll, ordering all the parts, writing all the estimates, just to prepare for the next morning, just to start it all over again. Hire people better than yourself. Let them do the job you hired them to do, right? That's tough for a lot of people. It's like, but I can do it better. So I'm going to intervene and I'm going to jump in. And then you're called a micromanager. They can't take it. They take off and you blame them.
Yeah, I would say that's something personally I've really been learning and growing into. And another episode interview that I had on the show was with Dan Cockrell, and he was the former VP of operations for Magic Kingdom. And he said the job of the leader is not to do, but to make sure it gets done. And I think that get it done, but get it done well and as a team mentality is something that Disney does really well, and businesses like yours that understand that just really excel in. But it's something that doesn't come naturally and might come at the cost of some mistakes. So, from your experience as a successful business coach, what are some of those common other business mistakes that you've seen business owners make, and how can they avoid them?
One of the biggest ones is not having a plan, right? It's not enough to just hire people and say, go fix that car. And you go talk to that customer and you go order that part, right? It's the EOS system. It's just like a 6-part system. Number one is vision. What's the vision of the company? What is this company going to look like in X number of years? You've got to have a vision. Without a vision, the people perish, period. Okay. So then there's the people aspect. Do I have the right person in the right seat on the right bus? We've gone through some people that they're professional interviewers. And then they show up for the first day of work and we go, you had a twin brother, didn't you, that did all the interviewing? Did you? This is a trick because it's like, you are not the person we just interviewed. What happened? Being very, very slow to hire and quick to hire is a recipe for success. And most companies are terrified. They'll keep a bad apple on, somebody who's super negative, super toxic, because they think they're producing more than they can afford to do without that person there. And I've coached shops for so many years and experienced this myself. When you get rid of the toxic person, everybody else goes, finally. And then they all do better and they all rise to the occasion and they all produce more and the entire environment is better.
Right, because that person could potentially cause someone else to quit, which is expensive. When you lose employees, you have a high turnover rate, then you have to retrain them. And it's just like, yeah, maybe that one person is doing their job well, but imagine if we had 5 more actually amazing people that do their job exceptionally well and people enjoy working with them too, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. And just to try to get somebody to see past that, yeah, but look at all the money they're bringing in. Yeah, but it's not good money. It's like dirty money. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to anybody. The customers aren't getting a great deal. And when I say a great deal, I mean they're not getting the value they should be getting. Their fellow employees, and if you have a toxic person working in your company and you lose somebody, they're going to lie about why they quit. They're not going to say, you know what, Jimmy over there, he's just real toxic and he's always kicking the dog every time he comes into work and he's really foul to be around. That's why I'm leaving. It's like, oh no, man, somebody's paying me $1 more an hour. So, I'm going to go do this for my family. They're going to lie to you about it. So you need to really, and when you're in the heat of the battle, involved, if you're flipping the hamburgers, you can't see how the cashier's treating the customers. So you can't be doing those tasks and expect to know what's going on in your business.
Right. What's another common business mistake regarding money? Because I liked what you said a second ago about dirty money. I think profit margins is something that everyone, especially with this time of how inflation is and supply, demand, all those things, it's just extremely difficult. And what, in your experience, like how do you combat that, or what's a mistake that commonly happens there?
Being afraid to charge what you're worth. Okay. I can't, it's almost funny, right? And I should be writing a book about this. John, you need to raise your labor rate $20. Oh my gosh, the customers will lose their minds. Well, your average repair order is 2 hours. So if you raise it $20, that's $40 more per ticket. Give me a list of your customers that are going to notice, and I guarantee you're wrong. And because if you're giving value, it doesn't matter within reason. I can't charge $10,000 to do brakes on a car that's a $500 brake job. Okay,
unless they're pure gold. I don't know. Who knows?
There are $10,000 brake jobs with these exotic high performance cars with ceramic brakes, so stay away from those. But the point is, I've got a longer warranty than anybody, 3 years, free roadside assistance, and the different things that we do. My staff is highly trained on interacting with the customers to build value. So when you see the guy down the road hang up a sign, brakes $199, and then they panic, they go, oh my gosh, I have to do brakes for $199. My advice as a business coach is no, put up a sign that says we fix $199 brake jobs. Set yourself apart from the competition and charge what you're worth. And a lot of them are terrified to do that. They really are.
But you're right. If it's valuable and it's a high level experience that you come to love and enjoy, then it is worth it. I mean, even Disney, they raise their prices. People keep going. It's an experience that they know and love. Yeah. It's a little more money, but you know that you're going to get what you pay. It's worth that. So part of that value too, of what you said earlier, is that customer service, right? Being able to, you can't just say, hey, this job's going to be, $200, but then the customer service experience is less than desirable. You could do the most impeccable job possible on that vehicle, technically, from like a mechanical perspective, right?
Right.
But if the customer service delivery of that was bad, then your value has gone down. Doesn't matter, right?
And you can apply that to restaurants and everything else, right? You ever been to a restaurant and said, "Man, this was what an experience. I'm going to bring my friends." And the next time you go, it's like you got Mary Beth, who's just a gnarly person to be around. It's like, what do you want now?
Yeah.
Hey, remember 27 minutes ago, you said you were going to bring another cup of water. And it's like, oh, and you go, well, I don't know what happened. Well, there's no consistency, right? So you have to deliver a consistent product, and it doesn't matter. And I've told my team this, it doesn't matter if we were making pretzels. Are we doing the best possible job on the planet delivering those pretzels to our customers? That's all. That's what really counts. People don't buy parts and pieces, right? They buy trust. If I'm ordering a steak from you, I trust that you've got the tools, the equipment, and the knowledge in the back to bring me the best steak I've had. Even if it's an Outback, $29 steak versus, a Ruth Chris $200 steak. I don't know. I've only been there once. It's expensive, right? So what's that experience like? Are you making it worth the price that, oh, you wanted a baked potato, sir? That'll be $29. Oh, did you want a fork? That'll be $9. You know what I'm saying? So It's like everything's a la carte. What's the experience going to be like for me?
What are some elements from Disney's customer experience or just general business practices that you've actually come to enjoy, and potentially similarly implement in your own?
The two biggest ones that always stood out to me was, and when I mentioned this book to you, right, when we first met, let's see, got to put this. I didn't know you were like this Disney freak, right? I don't know how to
That's what most people say. He's a fanatic. We can say fanatic.
Okay, fanatic. So, and I thought it was so cool that here I bring up these Disney principles. I never knew that about you. Lesson number 1: never let backstage come on stage.
Never let backstage come on stage.
Right. And here's what's important. And this, again, these are basic principles that apply to all industries. You have no clue what somebody is going through. Every single person in your life has something going on that you have no clue about, right? I've got things going on you have no clue about. You've got things going on I have no clue about. So I need to have not an ounce of grace, a pound of grace. When a customer's 30 minutes late for an appointment or cancels appointment after appointment after appointment, they're either a dingbat or they've got something going on in their life that just prevents them from getting here, right? And, a customer comes in all twisted up. And then, I've had this happen in the past where my team goes, oh, that guy's a jerk. I said, really? Is his wife in the hospital with cancer? Well, I don't know. Did his mother just die? Well, I don't know. Did he just run over his kid's bike and after he told him 100 times not to leave it in the driveway? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, that's my point. You don't know what's going on in their life. So why don't you just not take it personally? Deal with them on a professional level. At the same time, is your wife in a hospital with cancer? Did your mother just die? Did you just run over your kid's bike? I'm not being cold, but let's leave that stuff at the door because your customers need you to be on your game.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, prior to embarking in business, I was a theater major. Business just kind of came after that. In college, I did a lot with music, and I really enjoyed how behind the scenes everyone was like, this is the process, this is what's going to happen, you're going to go here, you're going to go here, and no matter what happened, the show had to go on. You had to improvise, and you had to do it with a smile and make sure that the audience got what they deserved, what they came for, what they supported you for. And I think it's just like a concept that resonates in every business, right? Like, and it has to be consistent. In theater, the shows have to be the same every single time. If you go watch Phantom of the Opera 25 years ago, 25 years later, it better be the same amazing show, right?
Absolutely. No matter what the actors and actresses have going on,
Yeah, or no
no
matter
matter
who
what.
they are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the
It does.
roles
Yeah.
change and the roles differ based on that individual. And I think another part to delivering that customer service experience is Disney does a really good job of finding the right talent and hiring the right talent. Is that one other kind of principle that you've put over in your business, or what's another one that you implement that you like?
And that goes back to the right people on the right seat on the right bus, right?
Right.
Because you can be on the right bus, but in the wrong seat. So, years ago, I learned the 4 T's of employee management. T number one is train them. Did I train them to do the job I hired them to do? If there's a problem, I go to T number two. Can I transfer them? Or is this something where I have a company where I can transfer them to perhaps a position that's better suited for their skill level? So things still not working out. T number three is tolerate. Will I tolerate the problems that are going on? And then the fourth T is terminate. It really takes the emotion out of it, right? Our coaching company, we teach transformational coaching where the employee is responsible for their review in many ways. How do you think you're doing? What areas do you think you need to improve in? What are your dreams, wishes, and aspirations? Right. And then we come back and then we say, here's some areas that need correction. And this is a advancement opportunity. See, if you get better in here, there's more opportunity for advancement or pay increase. This may be a job threatening, right? You come in, every Thursday after switching the kids with your ex-wife and you're angry and your steam's coming out your ears and you're kicking chairs, and that's a job threatening situation. You really need to get that under control, right? So, and this is an opportunity to transform people, right? Can you imagine just going back into a world where we're going to do your 1 year review and you sucked all year, so we're not going to give you a raise? Well, gee whiz, how about an opportunity to improve, right? So,
Right. I think that's so true. Whenever we do work and we don't receive that continual feedback from our leaders, then we're set up to fail. We could be the best person for the job possible too. We could be the right person in the right seat, but that leader maybe wasn't the best leader to help bring that out, to make that transformation happen.
and I got to tell you, I struggle with that. I struggle with giving you a pat on the back and telling you what a great job you're doing because I'm from the era where you were lucky you had a job, get back to work.
Right.
And that's just not the case anymore, right? You just can't be that way. But there was a day when, hey, you're lucky you got a job. Get over there and go do it. And if you don't like it, go, hit the bricks. People today are different. Expectations are different. We have this whole generation of getting trophies for showing up. And now I have to discipline somebody because they're late every Tuesday. And they look at me like, I don't understand what the big deal is, man. What's the problem? I'm only
Yeah.
15 minutes late. And I'm thinking to myself, well, let me guess. You probably called your mom when you got to school and said, I forgot my homework. She left her job, ran home, got your homework, and brought it back to you instead of allowing you to suffer the consequences of your choices.
And I think that's something that I personally am always trying to do better at. I am quite bad at showing up on time to things. I am not making excuses saying it's good. I just know that I need to do better. And I think that's the beauty of, being aware of that and working for yourself. It's like getting honest and being like, okay, like I'm not so great at this, but like what can we do to improve here so that it's better for everybody? And I think actually having my own business has made me more cognitive because it affects people more. It's given me the perspective that, and as an employee, I wouldn't understand. I would probably be that person, like, I'm 15 minutes late. But as a business owner, I'm like, you're not 15 minutes late. You're actually like a day late because this job was supposed to be done 2 days ago and we're already behind. And the customer's already called 50,000 times and you don't know any of that because my job as a leader is to protect you from knowing that. Your job is to up on time and do the work. I would have never had any of that clarity had I not embarked on this journey of being an entrepreneur now.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
I think something else that's, difficult is not just putting the person in the right seat, making sure they're trained, you're giving them the right feedback, but also collectively replicating that throughout the entire work culture. So, Disney is really good at building a strong work culture with their cast members, and they do small things, when it's, worth it and when they've earned it, to like keep encouraging them and keep employees around for a long time that do really well and that want to do well. So how do you encourage a positive work culture for your business, or what have you advised other people to do?
And being a mentor to the team, and
Mm-hmm.
getting back to the grace I spoke about, and generally caring about my people, right? And
Yes.
backing them. Even when they make a mistake, I back them, right? Because nobody's perfect. And I tell them all the time, when I stop making mistakes, I expect you to stop making mistakes. However, if we keep making the same mistake over and over again and don't learn and don't change, that's a different topic. And we're going to have that discussion. And holding people accountable. It's like, okay, hey, Johnny, we were in agreement that this is the way we were going to proceed in this area. Do you remember that? He goes, yeah, I remember. And this is the third time we've talked about it, Johnny. What do you think? What do you think should happen? So they're not getting fired. They kind of know that they fired themselves. And it's just managing data, right? That's one of the EOS things: vision, people, data, process. I can't manage what I don't measure. And performance needs to be measured, right? And even if you're a single operator, solopreneur, you need to measure your own performance. All right. And if you think about it, is all right, what are my goals? Okay. And let's say food and shelter. Right. And those are two luxuries in life I've grown accustomed to, and I would like to be able to continue to afford them. So in order to have food and shelter, I put a dollar sign to it. I kind of do the math backwards. What do I need to produce at the front end to get my desired result at the back end? Now, and I don't know your situation. If you're you, that applies to you. How
Right.
many things does Rita need to do in her field to get to, let's say, food and shelter? Let's add gas money, right? Let's make it really fancy. So, you're only limited by your own willingness to hold yourself accountable. And I remember telling a guy that once. A shop owner asked me to talk to his manager who's having some struggles with him. And he said, Frank, what was the hardest thing you've ever had to do with employees? I said, hold myself accountable was the hardest thing I ever had to do with my employees. In fact, I wrote an article and I posted it it's on LinkedIn about, are you accountable? And it's the dude in the mirror, it's the gal in the mirror. You can't lie to that person.
Right. And when you do, you're only preventing yourself from reaching those goals and dreams that you're capable and potential of achieving. I'm so curious. You've spoken to so many people, like coach them. What is the most impactful coaching session that you've had that actually you came in trying to teach them something, but they taught you something instead?
I learn constantly from them, but the most impactful really wasn't a takeaway for me, but a takeaway for the guy I was coaching. He was a heavy drinker and was on the verge of losing his kids forever. And I just said to him, I said, I want you to ask yourself a question. When your daughters look at you, what do you want their first thought to be?
That's powerful.
And it was, for him, it was. And we both cried, honestly, at that moment. And because, especially for little girls, right? They need their daddies, right? And they need a dad that they can look up to. And I don't know how many times we hear stories about these deadbeat dads, and these girls just long to find my dad. I got to find my dad. I want to connect to my dad. and it's usually a train wreck. It's like, it's a Lifetime movie train wreck. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's like so sad because that's where we learn our first like
love.
lessons and love
Yep.
and empathy and grace and very important things that as humans but also in business we need to have too. I mean, I feel like these days there's not as many business leaders leading with empathy or with grace anymore, and I almost wonder, like, why. Have you seen a trend in that yourself with people that you've worked with lately?
I don't. I probably should, but I try not to work with those folks.
That's true.
And I, it's because I'm on a lot of automotive shop owner forums,
Hmm.
and a lot of these owners are lashing out at their help. They're lashing out at their customers, and I'm like, dude, you're making this way harder than it needs to be. It's like, yeah, well, this is my thing and I'm doing it my way. And if they don't like it, okay, well, when you're all alone in your old age, look back on this day as the path you were on to end up that way. There's so much to be said for genuine love for people. Just a genuine, deep love, right? Because when you love yourself, you don't poke your own eye out. So why would you poke someone else's eye out, right?
Right.
With your finger of accusation, I'm going to poke your eye out. Well, it's just love really does cover a multitude of sins. So you generally need to love people. You need to love life. And if you don't love people and you don't love life, fix it.
Yeah.
You can
Think
fix
about
it.
where you're at in your life, what you're doing, who you're working with, what your family life is. Like, really take an assessment and don't just accept, like, this is the way things are, so it's always going to be this way. We're not going to change it. We're just going to wallow in self-pity and disdain for how things are. And
Yep.
that's how nothing gets done. That's how you fail to take care of yourself and others. And that's really great transition too, because I actually, I know you have a book. It's called How to Take Care of Your Vehicle, so it will take care of you. And that similar interesting mindset, I think, is from what we talked about before, just perfectly flows into this concept of, how regular maintenance and proper care makes a vehicle last longer, right? But in the same way, how can this exact principle be applied to business operations or leadership? Do you have any examples of that?
And it's a great title for a book. And I've actually thought about how to take care of your business so it'll take care of you, because
Oh,
that's
write
really
that, Frank. You need to
okay.
write that.
Thank you. Uh, and because it's a perfect segue, right, to part
Yeah.
two. It truly is taking care of business, right? Let's just get down to the nuts and bolts of it. I'm taking care of business. I'm financially responsible. I pay my team well. I've been accused of overpaying my team. And I said, well, so, I just, because a lot of people look at it as just the numbers, grind, grind, grind. I'm going to get more. I'm going to go buy another boat. I'm going to, you know what? Put you aside for a moment. And I learned this lesson early on in life. When you do the right thing, the money comes. Period. It's a great principle. If you do the right thing, the money just comes. People want to come with you. They want to deal with you. Integrity is critically important to me. My dad didn't have a whole bunch of integrity, and I never wanted to be like that. And I don't want to say I worked hard, but I was very conscious of having high integrity. And,
Right.
my first marriage failed because I got married when I was 19, still knew it all. But I remember one of my sons telling me just this year, hey, Dad, I remember this going on and this happening and what you said. And I said, I have no recollection of that conversation. Well, what was your takeaway? And he said, well, Mom wanted to do something and you were arguing with her not to do it. And I asked you why. And you said, because it's not the right thing to do. And here's my son, all these 25, 30 years later, relaying that back to me. But that's like, ding, check that box, man. That's what this is all about.
Exactly.
And that's the kind of legacy I want to leave, right? I want to leave that legacy where, Frank might have been really firm with me, but boy, he was fair.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. I think that it's so impactful because it also reminds us that even when we think we're not being observed or people are paying attention to us, whether as a parent or in business, that's probably those small moments that we're actually being more observed than we realize it, like
Yeah,
a new team member might observe something as simple as like how you close out for the day, or like, how you talk to somebody else. And the actions truly speak louder than the words. And
they do. Yeah,
the values that you put on your wall don't mean anything unless you're living that. And it starts with the top. It starts with
it
someone like
does.
you
Yeah.
being like, we need to do this.
And can you imagine what a customer thinks when they walk in and hear two employees bad mouthing another customer? That's letting backstage come on stage, right? That's
Right.
it's just Rick Hendrick is I don't know if you follow NASCAR. He owns a big race team in like 720,000 dealerships or something. The guy's got more money than God. And his mantra for everybody that works for him is, you show up on game day with your game face ready to play. Right? And that's really how it's game day. This is my game
Right.
face. It's time to play. Let's go.
I actually told my boyfriend that we were working together on a project, and I was like, I'm going to speak to you in a way that you understand. This project is like the Super Bowl of my career. Okay. We're going to prepare for weeks on end, and we're going to run through this game plan so that when you're there, even though you're just helping me carry equipment, you need to know exactly what's happening, because this is the Super Bowl of this season. Right. And then when I finally said it like that, man, he showed up. It's just the way,
See? Yeah.
sometimes the way that you explain things to people too, that's what sticks. But it's so true. Like, you can't show up and not give it your all, right? And there are some people that argue saying like, oh, you should be able to bring your whole self to work, right? Okay, maybe. If you're an entrepreneur, you potentially can, but
Yeah.
you really do have to still have a level of professionalism that, in spite of what's going on in your life and their life, that you can quote unquote perform for that person.
Brilliantly said, right? And you can bring your whole self to work. There's the door with your box of rocks, right? Because we all know those people. They have this box of rocks they insist on carrying with them. And every
Right.
once in a while, they have to reach in and pull out another rock and say, this is what happened to me in 1987. And they put the rock back. And then they pull another rock back. 2 years ago, this is what I went through. You don't know what I'm going through. This was and they put the rock back, and they keep carrying that box of rocks. And here's the secret. Put the box down.
Yeah.
Just let it go. Right? Because we can't change anything that happened. And it's like people getting triggered nowadays. It's like, man, dude, I mean, like, it could be so much worse. It could be
Yeah.
so much worse. Let's just relax. It's not about what was said, it's about how I react to it.
Right. But if you, same time, like you feel like you still have something that you're carrying, like put it down for later, but then find someone that you can trust that cares about you to talk about it, to work through it. It could be a mentor. It could be after hours with the boss that you actually really
Yep.
respect and look up
Yep.
to. But it doesn't have to happen right then and there with the customer. And I think, in general, these different things that we've talked about, like having the right people on the right seat, doing our best on, for our customers, encouraging and mentoring each other, and building this positive work environment as much as we can is definitely something that I aspire to do with my business, and why I'm inspired by you and what you teach. And Disney's not perfect. I want to make that clear. No company
No
is
company
perfect.
is. No.
No company is perfect, but we can all learn a little something something from every company. And even though Frank isn't the owner of a Disney park, he's an auto service shop owner of many shops and has coached many people. I firmly believe the moment we put our differences aside and learn from different industries and talk to
Oh,
each other,
yeah.
that's when we grow. Wouldn't you agree, Frank?
I absolutely would. And it starts, like I said, with yourself. Do we have a
Yeah.
minute for a true story?
Tell me your true story.
So there was a time after my divorce was really nasty. My ex-wife was the typical psycho. Okay.
Yeah.
And she really messed the kids up by accusations and the stories and the lies she was telling. They started using drugs, and I put them in a program in southern Utah. And part of that program was you're going to take parenting classes. You need to learn how you all got here together, because the parents who send their kids to get fixed and then bring them home back to the same environment don't succeed. And I said, yeah, sign me up, man. I'm up for that. So we did a part of that exercise was doing a ropes course with your kids. And if you haven't done it, do it. And one of the assignments I had was, one of my deepest struggles was guilt. And I don't know why, but it was. So my exercise was I was blindfolded and I had a very large tree trunk that was given to me. And I was told, here's your guilt. And I had to follow a rope through the woods, blindfolded, and with my guilt. Wow. And I was determined I was going to make it, not, because I'm Chris and Frankie's dad, and I'm going to make it because I'm going to make my kids proud. And I'm falling down. I cut my knees. I got scratches in my face from hitting branches, and I'm all beat up. And I get to the end of the course, and the instructor said, congratulations, you made it. What is that you're carrying? I said, that's my guilt. And he asked me, why didn't you put it down? I was like, boom. Oh, I was like, that was the moment I needed to break free. And that's kind of my box of rocks story, right? We've all got our burdens that we carry, but we don't need to carry them. And I just felt a freedom at that moment, knowing I could put it down. I didn't have to carry that burden with me. And it truly broke me free. So,
that's so interesting that you said that, because I feel like just a couple weeks ago, heck, just a few days ago, I had like a similar learning for myself, because as a business owner, very much wanting to be in control of everything, wanting to feel like you have it all together. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's hard to put that side of the box down. But the irony is when you finally do and you realize that even if you think you're in control, you're not.
You're not.
Kind of amazing things start to happen when you let go and, for lack of better words, let go and let God. And that's where I'm at with everything. So
perfect. Yeah.
That's amazing, Frank.
Yeah.
Well, I could talk to you for a very, very long time. And unfortunately, I'm sure that won't be so great for our listeners to stick on for a couple more hours. Right. But if anyone is interested in anything that you've learned or kind of the nuggets of wisdom that you've sprinkled in today, how can they reach you?
Frank at frankscandura.com. That's a real website. You can go to my website, frankscandura.com, and learn more about, my business principles and some of the things I do. And these principles, I specialize in automotive.
Yes.
But I could talk to you and help you in areas, because there's just principles that are principles that are principles. The process is the process is the process. I'm famous for saying so. Reach out. There's a calendar link on there. You can click and get an appointment with me.
I appreciate you, Frank. Thank you so much for being on this show. And I'm looking forward to hopefully inspiring any of you today that tuned in. Make sure to check out the next episode and follow Frank wherever he is on socials. We'll have all that information in the show notes below. Thanks so much,
Frank.
Thank you.
Rita, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. I thank you very, very much.
Oh, I appreciate it. You've been listening to Bippity Boppity Business. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review in Apple, or listen to us anywhere you prefer listening to your podcast. Until next time, have a magical day.